Aaron, man, thanks for joining me, bro. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, of course, Justin. Not a worry.
We got to talk about this short, man. This short has been taking YouTube by storm because I can't log into YouTube without seeing this short. I've already watched it about 36 times.
I think we're even like
Like,
we're giving some cat videos run for their money at this point.
so, so you mean the cat video that has a cheeseburger is no longer be on my front page because of you?
No, no, I think I messed up your algorithm.
No, it's okay. Dude, this is probably the best short I have ever seen
Oh man, yeah.
because I'm a huge, huge DC fan. I'm a huge Marvel fan. And this is probably what I've been waiting for the last 10 to 15 years.
Oh
And
man.
you brought it to life. What was the process like getting this to an actual short?
First of all, I gotta thank all the crew and everybody. So my director of photography, Chris Bond. I mean, he's the guy that gives it that look, and um, that comic book look, which is what a lot of people really were excited about. The light color through the window and that choice, and the all that was Tyler Hart. He was our gaffer, lighting technician, and then Annie Williams was the key grip, so all shadow control and everything like that. And it was a lot of talented people went into it, and a lot of people too responded to the set. It's like, yeah, we were kind of trapped in one room, and but John Helgren is a set designer, and he's just like, hold my beer, like I can get you as much out of this one room as humanly possible. I can create, the look. I come in the next day, and it's just better than anything I could have imagined. Um, Everybody brought their A game, and we're all indie people, so budget was really, really small. Um, I pulled together less than 5 grand, and just had to. Well, luckily, I've got all the camera and film equipment. That's what I do here is I rent out film equipment, make commercials and stuff like just the lights and the stands and stuff like that. It's called a grip and electric truck, and that's just primarily how I funded it was by taking all my gear and and obviously like it would have been far less if I wouldn't have had someone that loved the Joker as much. It was and
Oh,
and
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, we all say we love comics, but I think that when someone's so specific about a character that they like and that they've liked for 30 or 40 years, almost 40, like 35, I imagine. And David's like, everybody picks their character, and David definitely has picked his, and it's the Joker. And he spent so much time. I mean, he can do a lot of voices, like more than 100 impressions and stuff, and has a good following in voiceover. But like when someone does pick their favorite, you can only hope that the person is also a good actor, and then you can only hope that like all of it comes together. And so my pitch to him was, why don't we just spend a day? We'll play around with something that's the most comic book look that we can get, which is that long chin. I said specifically the story about the Joker that's near and dear to my heart is Death in the Family. And the one that's dear to his heart is like it felt from his explanation to me after when we chatted was like Death in the Family or Death of the Family. Like he kind of goes between those two storylines because obviously some wild stuff happens in Death of the Family. Problem is
Yeah.
like that's a lot of actors, and I couldn't have afforded like a location like that. And in this one, I can just like harvest this one specific moment in Death in the Family. But also, Death in the Family to me was like a storyline that kind of changed how I saw comic books. Because I didn't have money to buy comics when I was a kid necessarily. I funneled most of my lawn mowing money towards like renting Nintendo games and stuff like that. But a buddy of mine gave me a bunch of his old used ones that he had duplicates of, and they were mostly like X-Men and that's where I got started, like down that road. But then he started giving me some of his Batman comics, and a lot about Batman you can drop in the middle of a Batman storyline and kind of piece it together. They did a really good job in those about like saying, "Oh, here's a flashback," for those that are picking up their first Batman comic, and uh, and so I was able to like jump in, and 1988, Death in the Family comes out, and my buddy's just like, "Okay, you've got to read this," and I was okay,
Yeah.
whatever, and I thought, oh, this guy's pretty maniacal, and it's weird that in every frame he's smiling so much, and I think he does frown in a couple panes, uh, or he has his mouth shaped in a different way, but like 99% of the time he had that rictus grin permanently. It felt like,
Oh wow.
uh, but and a really really long jaw and like a straight hairline, and I'd always seen his massive widow's peak, and so I was just kind of thinking if I was going to go late 80s, I wanted to like embrace like late 80s like punk culture and like bikers from that era, and uh like and then I started thinking like outside the box, like, okay, well, I tried to go and rent a costume, like an appropriate Joker costume, and because I wasn't union, um I got denied the ability to rent from all the wardrobe houses that I contacted. And then one of them that would rent to non-union people wouldn't rent to me specifically because I wasn't a wardrobe person with any wardrobe credits. So I was kind of just
Oof.
left to throw my hands up, and uh, was really frustrated by that. It's just like, so that's where indie you got to get really creative, and I found a wardrobe person that was willing to like pull the trigger on all that stuff for me, and then they fell out the day before the shoot was supposed to start. And so that's when I was referred by my key grip, Annie Williams, to find Aaron Camacho, who came in, and he isn't like a wardrobe person by trade, but what he is a wardrobe stylist and like an actual artist. He makes a lot of steampunk stuff with gears and dials and brass and stuff like that. But he uses a lot of
Yeah.
found items, like from just like estate sales and clocks, and he rips them apart and he makes jewelry and stuff with them and sells them on his Etsy shop. She's like, he might have some wild stuff. Like if you want to get weird. And I was like, I do, because I want to embrace the fact that like this dude, Joker doesn't seem like the kind of guy that goes into TJ Maxx and finds a matching suit to me. That is one thing that I like, like, it has never made sense to me in the comics. And I was always one of those kids that would read a comic and just be like, well, that's not real. And it's like, well, yeah, I'm reading a comic book. They're literally drawings. But I'm like, why would all these big tough guys follow this crazy guy in a purple suit? It didn't never made sense to me. So I thought,
Yeah.
if I'm gonna do this, I want to do him up like a guy who could walk into like a bar, like a rough bar in a rough side of town, and it would have a look that would say, I'm part of your element, your criminal element, and people might listen long enough to start taking his money to go and be a goon. That was my logic. That was my thought process. And so in like the late 80s or whatever, I thought, all right, if goons were going to follow anybody, he'd need to look like them. They'd need to look like him. And David made a great point that he also dressed up to mock other people. So, in Death in the Family, he dressed up like as a sheik, like wearing all that stuff, uh,
Yep.
and like a turban, and was like
Oh my god.
worked for the Shah of Iran as a with diplomatic immunity as like an actual diplomat, so he could try and like kill everyone at the UN. Like it's a wild, Superman's there, and like it is just a very elaborate storyline, but it's really good. But at the same time, it's like in that was the first time that I ever saw a character that without blinking would try and like he went down to Africa and was literally gonna gas and kill like 100,000 refugees for that are starving for like no like this
Yeah.
isn't a comic, and I was just like it was jaw dropping the level of violence and lunacy in this, because 2 pages before I was laughing at a joke that he said or a face that he made, and then 2 pages later it's like he's going to kill all these innocent people. And
Yep.
I was just like, that kind of warped my mind at what a bad guy in a comic was capable of. And so when, he just ties up Robin, his mom betrays him. And this is Jason Todd's biological mom betrays him, who he's just met like 6 pages before for the first time. And then just, beats him with the crowbar on page
Yep.
88. And that was like horrific because he's smiling the whole time he's doing it. That was something that
And
I
he's
just sat and
laughing
stared
when he's
at.
just swinging.
Oh, yeah, yeah, horrific. And then they cut back to him and show him on the ground, but like that's as violent as the comic code would let them get at the time. And uh, I just I thought, obviously he leaves, locks the door behind him, and he has the bomb set and blows up the building. And then I was like, well, I know that that's been covered. Other people have done that. One of the things that I like to do, I've written a lot of screenplays. I've written on a lot of features, a couple of shorts. One of the first scripts I ever sold was a short. And of the things that I've done, I get the biggest kick out of a twist. And
Oh
I
yeah.
I thought for fans' sake that you guys and myself, like, we know how that story ends, like tattooed to our brains. So
Oh
like,
yeah.
what if I had all the red herrings in there, man? Like, what if I showed the crowbar? Like, I went out of my way to find this damn crowbar, and I was so worried because I didn't think I was going to get it in time, and that I would have to just go to the hardware store and get like a real steel one, which would be nice because he would have the weight of it, but at the same time, I would have to shoot a plate of him because I don't feel good about having an actor right here and a real crowbar up here, but you can shoot one and then leave the camera on the tripod and then move him in and have him take swings with an empty chair
Yeah.
and then, you know, do it through an effect. But I'm like, man, if he had it though, like, and then luckily, John Helgred, man, the set designer again, comes through clutch, brings in this table. It's got all these little torture things on it, jumper cables, and I'm just like, get out of here. I show up that day and I'm just so happy and so overjoyed. I'm just like, and John's just like, does that look good? And I'm like, yeah, man, it looks great. And he goes, oh yeah, and I have a crowbar for you too. And I was just like, oh thank you. No, this means everything to us. Like, and he's just like, I'm familiar. and so yeah, man, I got to leave those Easter eggs and that little breadcrumb trail to where everyone, I'm sure, uh, you know, with the whole like "you'll get it one day" line is like, okay, you're gonna get it, with the crowbar joke, you'll get it one day,
Yep.
and people are probably thinking, well, this is, now he's gonna get up and do the beating, and then I had, the gunshots, and then told David, I was like, okay, now go ahead and react. When you hear my hands clap, um, I'll call it out. And so I was at monitor, and I was like, okay. And then David, looks up and did just such a good job. The dude is so good. Like, it's art
Oh yeah.
shows, Art the Clown shows like 10% of what this guy can do. It's like that became very apparent. Like, I'm really excited to see him get some roles. I have some stuff in mind for him. I'm hoping that things work out, but it's a long, slow process. But um, that guy can do anything. Like, it's crazy, makeup or not. Like, and he's been doing theater for like 30 years. I think he said, like, musical
Yeah.
theater, improv. Uh, he'd done like just stage. itself, television. Like the guy's been a working actor for a really long time, and I think that people that don't know obviously don't know, but they're going to see that as he gets opportunities in the future to actually speak and do roles like this. And a lot of people, one of the big criticisms they had was our choice to be comic book accurate, and with the shape of his
Yeah.
chin, with the rictus grin, which was like it wasn't flexible. I mean, but that's what rictus is, um, and that's fine, you know. But it's what we were after. Like that's you know,
Yeah.
you want a movie where the guy can move his face and his eyebrows and everything else. Yeah, I mean, I want to watch that movie too, but this is the movie that I want to make. And I want it to
Oh
look
yeah.
like that comic book. I want it to look like page 87 and page 88 of Death in the Family. And that was one thing that made me so happy is to talking with David, uh, more texting because I didn't meet him until the day of shooting, and I didn't talk to him on the phone and in person or anything until it did, you know, which is weird, I know, for a director, but the dude's busy and I didn't want to bug him, and I had a lot of prep to do and stuff, and I just knew that he's a professional. Shows up, he's completely off book. It's exactly what I knew would be because he doesn't play around. He's not an amateur. And but when he showed up, he had the normal questions and was just so cool. Like just unbelievably, he's just a sweet guy who is just like, okay, well, where do you want me? You know, and then a second we were ready to go, would just flip the switch and Joker, pure Joker. Like it was, I at the after like one of the first takes, I forgot to say cut because I'm just sitting there watching him and he's just going and going and going, and I was like a kid, like watching my comic book in real time. And then like people looked at me and I was like, oh yeah, cut. And he's just like, he goes, I just wasn't sure if you wanted me to keep going. And I was like, I kind of did. Like, this is
I
crazy.
didn't want to say cut, but I had
I didn't,
to.
yeah, and I just realized that like, oh, we got a lot of hours in front of us. This is perfect. Like, this is great. And, yeah, we had with David in makeup, we had just shy of 8 hours to shoot the whole short. And
Jeez.
yeah, man, that was a sprint. Like, but out of the time with Joel as Robin, Joel LeBlanc played Robin, and and then Hunter on the back end as Batman, Hunter G. Williams. So all told, on set, we had all of our actors for about 10 and a half hours to get them all in one place.
Damn.
And some makeup on Joel was about 45. And I got three people. I got Tatiana Bluchel, I got Cassie White, and Pedro Rios to be able to do my makeup. Because I asked Tatiana, I was like, I know it's a lot to ask for. It's a lot of makeup. Um, she said, well, me and a plus one. And then so I took more of my budget and put it into makeup. Like a third of my budget went to makeup department just because it's so much work. Like I know people have seen time lapse before and they've seen behind the scenes of actors taking like 8 hours in a chair. And I'm like, it's such a small area too. I know that you can't have six hands in there, you know, trying to put
No.
makeup on, you know, but you can have the surgeon and you can have the surgeon's assistant, you know, handing them all the tools. And they did. They
Yeah.
moved really fast for what we were asking them to do. And you know, it's not David's first rodeo. He knows the whole process with art, especially. And but as a makeup test, we didn't have an extra day to try different looks. So the whole thing that I wanted to do, which was a makeup test, ended up becoming a makeup test. And then, oh yeah, let's run upstairs and shoot a film, which is really ambitious. I had some practice in the summer doing a 1 day shoot on another project that I wrote and directed, and uh, it was, but it involved no makeup. It was like a family kid detective kind of thing, and uh, so I knew where I would suffer if I didn't. get someone in front of it to light it and pre-rig and put the set together, and then on the back end, all the other work on a separate day to tear it all down and reset the house. And so I used that thought process to like, I can maximize my whole shooting day. I'll have the whole team here on this day. But it's like if I call my actors in for early call to do or pre-call to do makeup, I lose them on the back end because anything over 12 hours is overtime. And I also didn't want to
Jeez.
take advantage of David's time either. And so I stacked it in a way to where I got Joel in and out quick, took him upstairs for about an hour and a half, and just did all of his individual stuff. Just bam, 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 every possible angle, the slow over and everything over his shoulder and all of his reactions. Like, man, we just started beating the hell out of that guy right away. And and I'm
Poor guy.
like, yeah, he
You
was a
signed
champ.
up for this.
Yeah, he was a champ and could not be more excited too. Like, I was
And he,
worried
and
a
he
little
looked just the
bit.
part too.
Yeah, no,
He
legit.
looked just like Jason Todd.
So we seriously, like Justin, like the thing about Joel was like we looked at about 10 or 11 other actors, and uh, some of them had a good look, but like they they were almost like too buff, or they looked just a little too old. But they would put down that they could play 20s, and it's like, bro, you're 35, man. Like you can't
Yeah,
play 20s, like and so it's immediately I'm just half of those guys that responded I couldn't use. And then Hunter said, like, look, I've got a friend, his nephew is really into comic books, and like I think he has a good look. He sent me over his picture, or the uncle sent his picture to Hunter who played Batman. Hunter forwarded it to me. He's just like, go with it, don't go with it, but like I kind of think he has the right build. Well, he sends three pictures. Like a couple of them were like Instagram pictures, and then one of them he's straight up dressed as Jason Todd. Like,
oh my God.
yeah, he's like, dude, I used to cosplay Jason Todd. Like, here's, this is from like 6 years ago, but like, he has a twin brother, Joel does, and he goes, he would dress up. I think he said his twin brother would dress up as Batman, and he would dress up as Jason Todd, and like they would cosplay. That was their Halloween costumes. Like it was that every year, and which I was just like, okay, first of all, the kid looks great. Like he's got a great look for it. His build is slender, which makes him even more youthful as far as I'm concerned. He looked, you know, so much the part, but it's also cheating. Like I've already got it in costume. Like if I didn't have any imagination, like this is perfect.
My work
Uh,
here is done. You should have led with
yeah.
this.
Yeah, I told him later. I told him at like our cast screening because no one saw 2 days before this dropped, or maybe it was one day. It might have been on Thursday, and we dropped this Friday night at 6. But I think Thursday I got all the cast and all the crew together, and we were able to. A couple of people weren't able to make it, but 99% of us were there. And so they all got to watch it for the first time. Now, David saw an early cut. Like he did a little bit of a reaction to it. Tatiana, I showed her a really early cut, but it had a slightly different ending. So it was her first. The producers had checked it out, but like I wanted to show her and David before I showed anybody else. And then I decided after they watched it, I was like, I'm not going to show it to anybody else until they get to see it finished before the world gets a chance to see it. But like this
Yeah.
is all their hard work, and I'll have to post that reaction video of them because we rented this tiny theater, and I think there were plus the husbands and wives and girlfriends and boyfriends and stuff. Um, there's about 35, 40 people maybe, and they were laughing through the whole thing. And after watching this 100, 200 times while I'm trying to edit it and tweak it and twist and then all the audio and going through all that nightmare and just because post, I learned a lot about post too, and it's just like, man, my Matt Walker, my editor, he said if shooting is a sprint. He said editing is a marathon.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, okay, I can I can let that live in my head. Like that makes perfect sense. That was an aha moment for me because I was like, man, come on, we should be done with this. Like it's almost Christmas. We shot on the 4th. Like what's taking so long? And he was just like, there's a lot that needs to happen. Like this isn't just done, you know.
This isn't
I did.
like a one take and edit.
Yeah, no, I mean we shot an hour, I think, of usable footage. Like Noble Gray is my first AC, first assistant camera, and focus puller. Like that guy doesn't miss, which means all the takes that David did, I could use. So I had an hour and 40 minutes of like really usable footage where even camera movements were fluid because Chris operates his own camera. Chris Bond, my director of photography, he operates his own camera, so he had total control there. Matt Walker was actually second AC. He was the clapboard guy, but he's also my post supervisor and my editor. So like he's there going like, hey man, look, as long as we're going right to left on this shot, I can match it, and then we can do this, you know, over here, and we can match that. And people are probably people that didn't know Matt Walker was going to be editing were just like, man, this guy's got a lot of lippy opinions. Like, why is the director talking to this dude over here? Clap the board, clap guy. But like, it was a fun day, man. Everybody's laughing. Everybody's having a good time. But like, it was like we had shot 1,000 things together. And as some of us had, like I had worked with Annie and Tyler and Chris Bond more times than I can count. And, uh, and then Vanessa was a producer, but she also came up and helped first AD. Um, and it was just, yeah, uh, it was a wild sprint, but at the same time, like it was kind of like the day nobody wanted to finish. Like the PAs were having a good time, like they were just everybody was grinning from ear to ear, and just because I think just because David brought it, and also between takes, he's so much fun. He's a very funny guy, and you know he's got that makeup on, so it's hard not to like look at the Joker of my childhood and like and then he makes like a dad joke. Like he was just walking around just making all these dad jokes. Like I wrote like 4 or 5 dad jokes, but like as he was just sitting there, like the screw that with the drill, like he picked it up and was just playing between scenes as I'm like repoing everything because every time he threw tapes, I had to like put them back up on the thing and get it ready for another angle and another angle, another angle. I used the first one because as he's sitting there throwing the tapes over his shoulder, he hit Joel in the head twice. And Joel, who can't like see anything, he just like bam, bam, bam. He like just keeps getting hit with these cassette tapes. And I I
And
loved
I
it so
thought
much.
about that because I the first time I watched it, I'm like, he's throwing them and
Oh
he's
yeah.
not looking.
No.
And I'm like, is he in the same direction as this man is strapped down?
Yeah.
Like I'm like
He hits him in
I'm
the
like I
head
hope he's not
twice.
hitting him.
Oh, 1,000% he was. As I was laughing in the other room. And as soon as I said cut, I was like, are you okay? Which when someone says, you know, like, are you okay through laughter, that is the least
Yeah.
sincere thing to say.
And then you
Like,
try to compose yourself, and then like as you're still grinning, you're like, "Are you okay?"
yeah, yeah. I'm so sorry. Ha ha ha. You know, like, it looked great on
That's
camera
so
though.
terrible.
Yeah, no, but Joel was like, hey, if it looks great, I don't care. Do whatever you want. He just kept saying that over and over, and I was just like, yeah, but like within reason, man. I don't want SAG to like run into the room and start slapping everybody. Like the thing the thing about both of them just wanting to do it so much and wanting to do such a good job is like David. I don't think he can help himself. If he would have been dressed up as anybody, he would have done a great job. But like he clearly just like had the lever of the floodgates like just ready for a Joker and
Yeah.
having an opportunity to go up there and use his voice and vocalize all that. It was just like it was so real in that sense. And you know, I think a lot of the people that didn't like the look that we went with probably weren't real comic book fans, but they were
No.
fans of the IP as it concerns like cinema. And uh, for all intents and purposes, like you can't in those movies. I mean, they could, but it's a huge expense to have your A-list actor come in and sit in a chair. Like Drax the Destroyer. That's a lot of makeup time. Uh, you
14,
know,
15 hours.
yeah, yeah. It's just
No.
cost prohibitive. And
Oh yeah.
when was the first one? Was 1989 the first Batman, the Tim Burton Batman? Was that 89?
It was
I can't.
89. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I was super happy with Jack's. I mean, Jack already has a very Joker-shaped smile, so I'm sure behind the scenes people were having a battle over like, no, we don't need to put this makeup on him. Like, leave it as it is.
He he had the Joker, the original Joker oval face,
Yeah,
and the smile was just built into his face.
yeah.
So
So
they
it's just
really didn't even have to do too much.
no, no, and a lot of people didn't like that they added the rictus portion that doesn't flex, and my VFX guy, my Matt Walker is my editor. He does VFX primarily by trade. Um, he even said like, there are moments when Dave brings his mouth to say like the letter O or whatever, uh, that I don't know if we want to use those cuts because you can really see the prosthesis. And I'm like, at the same time, like, what are we chasing reality or are we chasing the comics? Like, that was a big conversation that was happening. I have my buddy who introduced me to Batman comics. He lives in Germany now. Like, I sent him, I was like, hey, look what I did. And he's just like, oh man, dude, this is sick. And it was his Death in the Family that I read from when we were little kids. And he's just like, I don't know if I'm a fan of the mouth within a mouth makeup. And I was like, I don't have a. So what they would do in like a major motion pictures, they would just go in and they would take all of those moments and fix them in post in
Yeah.
order to hide makeup or help it or whatever. I don't have the budget for that, and I didn't want it to take another 6 months. His fans were excited to see it now. Like the fact that I had to wait until like I think it was like the 19th or something of January to get it to him, I felt bad about because so many people were pumped and hyped, and we had leaked about all the photos we could leak without making a flip book that people could see the whole movie. It's like,
Yep.
and that kind of started some online hate too, with people that just didn't like the look, overall the look. They like Heath Ledger, they like, everybody had their favorites, and they were just like, well, it could be subtle, it could be this, it could be that. And the comic book fans were just like, no, it can be exactly like this. Like, this is
Yeah.
fine. Like, this is the comic. But that was seemed to be what blew me away is that seemed to be like the smallest portion of people, and it kind of made me go like, are fans nowadays not buying comics? Like, is it all just people who only watch the cartoons and only watch the movies now? Like, what is a Batman fan now? And that was something I'm like,
Yeah.
man, maybe I'm just fucking old. like, that was Justin, that was like a moment where I'm just like, dude, maybe comics, like actual paper, handwritten, hand drawn comics, like are like grandpa's habit, like maybe
Vinyl
that's just,
records.
yeah, maybe that's nostalgia now. And
Because
I spent a lot of time thinking about that. I was just like, man,
there's not a lot
maybe,
of comic book shops here no more.
yeah,
We have maybe two
yeah,
at most. Where back in the day I had 8 or 9,
it's
and
crazy,
now these places are just holes in the wall because you got to remember now comics are readily available online also.
right? You can
So
just have
you
them
don't
sent to your
have the
front door.
actual, or you just download them to your iPad or your Kindle, and then there is no going to a comic book shop on release day and getting a new comic or whatever anymore. You just have it just in your palm of your hand now. There is no physical actual going to
Yeah,
the store, flipping through new releases. It's just like albums and everything else. We don't
yeah,
have that no more. Physical media is basically gone for the most part now,
yeah. There's something
and
to it.
especially with
There's
Like
something to being able
now
to
you don't even have
go
to go
in
to
and
a theater no more.
yeah, that is like that that is a whole heartbreaker of a tangent, man. There's something about seeing a comedy and everybody laughing together, or seeing an action movie and everybody enjoying that fight or going, "Whoa, damn!" A certain car wreck or a stunt that looks like it hurt and probably did, and and
Tom
then
Cruise.
oh yeah, dude. Like even Jackie Chan, remember when we were kids watching his ankle fold when he lands and have his ankle fold, and then for the rest of the movie you can see a
Rumble in the Bronx.
yeah, slightly larger uh, air cast sneaker on that one foot. And I'm
Yep.
just like, oh, dude, I wore my cassette out on Rumble in the Bronx because it was just like he does it when, and then some of my buddies and I are all just like right next to the TV,
Because
like.
that was when he jumps
And you're
from
like,
the ledge to the
oh, yeah,
hovercraft.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh
Which
man,
was a long jump, man. This is like
it was a
pre-parkour. It was a hell of a jump.
and the hovercraft was full speed.
Yeah, which everyone
Oh
says
my
was part of the
god.
problem, which normally he would have tucked into it, but because it was going forward, that kept his ankle straight. Well, almost. Like, yeah, Rumble in the
Oh
Bronx. Oof.
my god. Maybe
Yeah, so
we are old.
yeah, no, props to Stuntman. No, no,
So
but there's always
you
something about comic book day, man, going and with whatever money you've got. Like that was always the catch. Like, okay, I've got 18 bucks
yo,
or I've got 15 bucks. Like, can I go and get like
what
a
can I get?
tuna? Yeah, like that was the that was the hardest part. It's like, okay, you've always had your main titles. Like I was always a Wolverine kid. And so like because I was introduced to X-Men first. And so that was my passion was when finding that there were so many X-Men. Like I just couldn't afford to
Yeah.
go back and buy all these other ones. But the new ones were coming out at $1.25 and stuff like that. And uh, so I knew I could get a bunch of the new ones, or I could go back and get one that I was missing for $5. And so it was like this trade-off, man. But that was part of the fun of it. That was always so much fun. And this is the same place. I don't know how yours was in your town or your favorite comic book shops, but in my hometown we had one. We still had a grocery store where you could buy comics like out of the spinning, like like a magazine, like it's a literal magazine rack that spins. But
Yes.
there would be comic books also, like right there. And
Yep.
the comic book shop, he would not want you to like touch and read and everything else. But the grocery store, they don't care. So I would go there and like
Yep.
read all of them, but they would all be bent on where the wire rack was. And so I'm like, I cannot abide the bend, but I'll read it here. And then I'll go to the comic book shop and I'll buy a crisp one, put it in the plastic, and never open it.
Cause it I never bought out of that rack either because you have to fold the both ends and then fold the top and then slide it under the rack so it's stuck in there.
Yeah,
And I would try to pull out the entire stack and find one in the middle, but all of them were
they
already bent
already
up.
had a
So I'm like,
crease.
you know what? I'm just gonna go somewhere else.
Yeah, yeah. No,
I
that's
hated
hilarious.
that.
Yeah, my comic book shop was also the one that had like all the nunchucks and throwing stars and like yeah, it had all
All the
the
stuff
cool.
behind the CAD register.
Oh yeah, yeah, all the cool stuff, man.
Yeah.
So like that $20 was not going home with me, like no matter what. Like I was gonna go home with a stack of comics. He also had one that was like 25-cent comics that like were old and kind of trashed, and he would take spray paint, which I hated this, but like he would take spray paint and go across the tops, like where they were all jammed in. He would just mark them all. And so that way he knew when you went up, like these were read only, cannot collect, which I was like, what is the deal, man? Like, why would you
What?
do that? Yeah. No, it was a weird thing that I had never seen, and I haven't to this day seen anywhere else. But like, these were old ass Aquaman comics, like Golden Age, like old stuff. And some of them were like Archie comics, so like nobody's gonna collect these. And so, like, if you were
Nah.
just curious about a comic and wanted to read it, there's 25 cents. You can have one of these comics. but I was just like, well, they're trash. And sometimes you'd find one that was really clean, like the edge was perfect. It looked like it had never been read, and the corners were perfect, but it had orange spray across the top. I was like,
What?
okay, yeah, yeah. It got me thinking. I'm thinking about the old days now.
Oh my! You're hurting my soul that this man took spray paint and spray painted his comics.
Yeah. What comic book owner? Who owns a shop that does that? But maybe
I've
the only thing
never.
I can think of is that he got him like that, maybe. But I don't think so. I think he did it so that when they went up to the register, he knew that he wasn't going to be able to charge full face value, but that he would just charge the 25 cents.
But watermark and stuff? That's kind of
Oh,
wild to me.
yeah. No,
That's basically
it
what it is.
yeah, yeah, basically. Yeah, yeah. He
Like
permanently, yeah,
I, I have to tell you
yeah.
when you said earlier that David is we only see 10% of what he does as Art the Clown. That just sent chills up my spine because I only see him as Art the Clown. I only see him as Player Two from Stream, and to hear his voice as Joker, because I've seen like shorts of him at cons doing the voice and him just playing around, but his voice as Joker, and I said this when we reviewed the short, his Joker voice is a mix between Heath Ledger, Jack Nicholson, and what's his name
Mark
from Star
Hamill.
Wars, Mark
Yeah.
Hamill, all
Oh
rolled into
yeah.
one.
Yeah.
And if I could throw my money at y'all to make an actual full length film, I need to hear him as Joker and you guys with the cast you guys made because you couldn't pick a better cast than
Oh
than
yeah,
than
man.
what you
Thanks,
guys
dude.
had because to me watching that short was me took me back to the 80s just going through these comics and that's why we gravitated toward this short because it's something that I've sent emails to James Gunn. I've sent emails to Warner Brothers, but nobody wants to listen to me. I don't know anything, but
Yeah.
it just felt like to me that one of my emails got to you, and you went, you know what? It's time that fans actually took comic books in their own hands, and
Yeah.
I speak on the behalf of our people. We have to say thank you because you brought this to
Oh
life
man.
for us.
No, man. I appreciate that. I think due respect is all got to go to um, the fans want something enough to support it, and just supporting it with a view is a lot because that says a lot. It says that people out there are reacting positively to David's performance. But it's in Nightwing Escalation, he had a great opportunity to do the voice. But I mean, this is like 10 years ago, and there's a web series out there if someone hasn't seen it. It's called Nightwing Escalation. It's a low budget
That's
independent,
phenomenal.
yeah, web series, and it's just like people have to be able to set aside what they're used to seeing on a high budget and then just go based on story and performance. And I think the performance that excels is David's. Like they maximize their opportunity there. And this is David 10 years ago. I mean, since then he became Art the Clown. Like he's
Yeah.
got, all this other experience under his belt, all these other jobs. And it's like as an actor, he never stopped working, never stopped learning, never stopped hanging out with other actors. And I have the feeling that like he just had his pockets packed with extra ideas of like next time, if I get a chance next time. But what I like the most about David is he's very specific. He's like, if it's not going to be me, I just want it to be someone who goes back to the comics and does a comic book accurate Joker for us that takes the reference, whoever the next actor is, goes back because my favorite analogy is it's like being lost with the map open and you've got the compass. It's like you have no excuse. You can go and get a stack of comics digitally. You can sign up for 1 month for free and go
Yeah.
and read Batman comics. You can punch in Joker and read 100 Joker comics, and now it's here, and the character lives, and it's like you have all these references. How can we not be telling stories that are so easily accessible and the material is already out there? It's like you're not going to hurt our feelings by telling one of these like crazy famous stories over again. Like nobody's going to get mad seeing Jason Todd beat with a crowbar and blown up, as long as it's actors that care, directors and editors that care, and people are going to want to like exemplify this material that's near and dear. Um, like some of us are just waiting to see it.
Yeah.
And there are FX series and stuff where they give you those key Easter egg moments, and we immediately respond to it. I mean, how many Gotham, series episodes were there? How many Titans episodes were there? Like when he goes to Jason Todd goes to confront the Joker by himself. Like it was kind of, someone said this, and oh, maybe it was you guys said, like it's almost like our short fits in that gap of when Jason Todd went and got hit on the head, and
Yep.
then they cut to that really big wide. Was that you, Justin, that said that? Like,
Yep.
yeah, they cut to
Yep.
the wide, and you just see a shadow of someone cackling and hitting someone with a bar. But that's all we
Yep.
got. And from the time that happened, and then the next season starts, and now we've got like a Red Hood. It's just like, man, there was something missing for me as a comic book lover. How can you skip that? Was it a legal reason? Is it like, or did the writers not have the the I mean, it's not like they didn't have a budget, so like did they not have authorization to tell that story? It's like, man, what a shame. But yeah, I mean, I imagine
What is
sometimes it's legal.
like sometimes one of my biggest things on the show is I try to tell people you have Hollywood and you have independent stuff. You can't compare the two. You
Yeah, it's
it's
true.
not a comparison.
That's
And
true.
I said more Hollywood is more driven by money, and you have people like yourself that loves this stuff. And people need to realize Hollywood is about turning over. Okay, we have one movie. When is our next movie come out? When does it hit digital? It's all about a money driven machine. When you have independent people like yourself that care about quality, Hollywood doesn't care about quality. Their tunnel vision is, all right, movie hits. What's next? What's our next check? What's our next whatever it is? Where I'm trying to convey this message that more independent stuff should be given chances because they have a lot more material and they have a lot more freedom as well. Because your mainstream Hollywood stuff isn't going to take the chances as independent filmmakers
Yeah.
because they have a lot broader stuff to work with, and
Yeah.
they care about their stuff because they're pocketing, they're pulling their own pockets out because they're not going to put out bad stuff. Hollywood is about quantity. What are we doing next?
Yeah.
What is our next check coming in? And I try to convey that message to people, and a lot of people don't understand. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people expect the same picture quality, film quality, sound quality, everything from independent films, um, before they'll even consider the story, which is a shame because if you're watching an independent film, you should consider the story first before you let all that other stuff bog you down.
yeah,
Um, but nothing takes you out of a movie faster than bad audio. Like if I can't hear what's being said, so it's true. Like you got to hit those benchmarks of quality, or die trying. The other thing is Hollywood has to keep the IP, which is a really stagnant term, but like they've got to keep it alive and keep it attached to the monitor and to keep the pulse going. And the only way they can do that is with a steady trickle. It's like, is there ever going to be another Spawn movie? Probably not, but like, is the IP dead? Well, no one's talking about Spawn, so is the X-Men IP alive? Yeah, because the movies keep coming out, because the
Yep.
comic book came out, or the animated series relaunched, or X-Men '97. Uh, so like, as long as they keep breathing a little bit of life, like pulling someone drowned out of the ocean onto the beach, as long as they just keep them alive, and this constant trickle, you'll be able to tell the stories. And then the downside is it's Peter Parker and Uncle Ben over and over. It's
Bruce Wayne and his
seeing
parents 20
Bruce Wayne and
times.
his parents over and over. It's like, God, it's okay, because like 10 years ago we saw this. Like, that's still out there. It's still in the lexicon. It's still in our minds. It's canon. We get it. Uh, so, like, can we just tell other stories? Because there's so many. There's hundreds of stories, and um, I think Hollywood is. I think they underestimate, and I say this, and I'm literally in Los Angeles right now, so it's like there's probably no better way of shooting my career in the foot, but it's just like I'm saying this because I'm excited to be a part of that and to have an opportunity to do that. Like, I may only be making mayonnaise commercials for the rest of my life, whatever keeps the lights on. But like, at
Yeah.
the same time, every time I put together a little bit of money, if I can find willing participants to tell one of these crazy stories, I want to do it. Or to, and my friend Jonas now wants me to definitely try and like raise money and do a horror movie of some kind. And a lot of people have reached out and said that, and I've written a couple horror movies, but I wrote them as a screenwriter to give to somebody else to make, and never with the thought, because I wrote one of them like 5 years ago, never with the thought of I would direct. I didn't start directing until last year. It was something that I thought I would want to do. But after 6 years here of watching other people, almost seven, I guess, watching other people direct, and for the most part, learning and enjoying what they were doing. But sometimes you see someone direct that just like, oh man, if they would have just told this actor this thing, or like, oh, why didn't they let this actor take another shot at it because they were asking for another chance, and they're like, no, we have to move on. And it's like the actor didn't get a chance to give it their best.
Yeah.
And I thought, if I ever got a chance, and it's when I started saying that, like, if it was me,
Yep.
like, and then I'm like, you know what? No one's going to give me a chance. I'm not going to walk up to the grip, the best boy grip or the best boy electric on set and be like, hey, random bald dude in his late 40s, why don't you come and direct the rest of our, you know?
Whoa, whoa. b- Back it up. If they're talking to you like that, for one, that's an instant problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I knew that, like, I had to create my own opportunities. I had to, like, I believe in my friends and what my friends are trying to do with all my heart. And, uh, and I was able to give all of them an opportunity to shine when nobody was telling them otherwise. And that felt really good. And so, to critics out there that are just like, they don't enjoy it for, reason A or reason B, I don't care, I guess, is my only answer. It's like, 98.2% of people did like it. And I'm glad that I know that. I'm glad that I can pull up a program that tells me that people enjoyed it, and there's proof right in front of me, like, oh, more people liked it than didn't like it. And then, wait, 98% of people liked it and only 700 people didn't like it? Like, out of 400,000 people that could have said they hated it, only 700 people
Yeah,
were like, ooh, boo, like, oh,
that's a win.
that's a win. That's the biggest win I could have imagined. And, it's free entertainment. They didn't have to go and pay to go to the theater. They didn't have to do this. Yeah,
I would
I
have paid to
feel,
see that in theaters any day of the week.
oh
I would
man,
have.
thank you.
I would have shelled out some money
Oh
because
man.
I sent it to my co-host that I did the episode with. He goes, "Why couldn't we pay to see that in theater?" Like, I said, I wish we could have, because if that would have, it was the best 13 minutes of DC I've ever seen. And
Oh man.
to to put your stuff up against a franchise and to say your stuff is better, I would think as a studio, I would try harder because what they're doing isn't it. Only thing I gotta say is I watched Gotham from the start, and this was even better than Gotham. I hated Gotham so much. I
Oh
hated
man.
it so much because, and I was toying around with this idea, and I thought about this last night because I knew I was going to interview it today. Could you see David Howard Thornton as the Riddler?
Oh, the Riddler would be an easy one for him. Oh, for sure. I
Like,
liked the guy that played the Riddler in that, and I forgive me, I don't remember the actor's name, but
yes,
I thought he did a great job in those 3 episodes leading into his character's reveal. Um,
yes,
were my favorite. I think the first season stands up really well, and I think after that they were just trying so hard to pay homage to all the fans. They're like, hey, here's another character, but that's the same thing that made X-Men 3 terrible. Was that it was just like X-Men 1, they gave us just a few of the characters we liked, taught us about them, taught other people that didn't know about them. Fans were happy. The non-fans got to see a bunch of dudes running around flexing, so the girlfriends were happy there. Uh,
yep.
the VFX for the time still hold up for the most part. A lot of fun stuff. And then X-Men 3, the cash grab. Like it's like we, like, was
God,
was just like they pulled. I mean, Marrow. Talk about obscure characters for a second. Marrow, yeah, can grow bone spurs out of their skin, break them
yep.
off, and then throw them like
Totally
Gambit
people.
does with
Yep.
accuracy. I am aware the character exists. Nobody gives a shit. Like that is these these
Were you sitting on my couch when I watched that? Because I said the exact same thing.
yeah, I was just like, look, man, I have all the issues of the comics with the Morlocks. I know about the Morlock tunnels. I know where all that stuff goes. Like, I was fascinated at the time. I have the purple cover X-Men with Wolverine on the cross. And when I saw Deadpool Wolverine, like I was the guy
Yeah.
that leaned forward in his chair and I was like, yeah, that's what's up because it had the Sea of
Yeah.
Skulls,
Same.
and I was just like, thank you. Like, and of course, I went by myself because I knew how annoying that would be to anyone that went with me to just be like, "Gee," have to listen to that for all that time. But it was like they did the work for the fans in that movie, and there were other things that didn't hit or whatever. Like I liked it. Best intro to any comic book movie I've ever seen. Uh,
1000%.
so like I was on board. But I'm super biased. Like as a little kid, I never thought they'd make a Wolverine movie because I had read the comics. He's the most violent, most offensive, grumpiest, not good looking, hairy, just short. Like he's he's no way is someone going to make this dude for the movie. And I was that one, nerd in the back of the room going, they can't make him in a comic. Hugh Jackman's too tall. And
Oh my
there was
God.
there was so much nerd rage, man. I was so upset. I was like, I don't know who this Hugh Jackman Australian guy is, but he can't be Wolverine. And and then the movie came out, and I was like, okay, yeah, you know what? And then before the movie came out, though, I saw an interview with him, and I was so into it. I think it was ET Entertainment Television or whatever did this interview with him, and he says in the interview, and he goes, in his cool Australian accent, he's just like, I think that I might be too tall for the role, but I hope the fans forgive me or something like that. And I was just like, like,
At
oh
least he
man,
understands.
yeah, like he admitted he,
And a lot of people don't really like know that a lot about the actual
that he had never read
character,
a comic. Yeah,
but for somebody to sit there and say, "Hey, by the way, I might be too tall. Please forgive me."
Yeah.
So
And also
that
that until he was cast, he had never read a Wolverine comic.
yeah, I heard about that too,
And I was
and
just
I was
like,
like,
I don't think you want to say that, Mr. Actor guy. Like,
ah,
don't,
do you
don't.
want people with pitchforks in your front yard tomorrow?
Yeah, that is like, he's such a sweet dude, but he was just like, yeah, I never read any of the comics either. And he's like, that's part of why he cast me. And I was just like, I don't think either of those facts are things you should lead with.
Uh, I hope your address isn't public knowledge, Mister
Yeah.
Hugh Jackman.
You're
I,
gonna,
I rolled in to Deadpool and Wolverine 5 people deep because I was like, this is gonna be wild. Because I had a weird theory about it that it was they showed 13, 14 trailers, 3 minutes each, and I badmouthed it for months because I'm like, there is nothing left to this film that I haven't seen via
yeah,
trailer.
I
But to
dodge
see,
trailers as much as possible now. Sorry, go ahead. But to see,
only problem was people would just send me trailers and be like, talk about this, talk about this, talk about this. I'm like,
yeah,
movie's a month away. I'm not gonna sit here and dissect trailers.
no,
I'm not all about that. But if it's a good enough trailer, I will we will talk about it. Like we just did Fantastic Four and we just did the new Final Destination one because those were huge hits for me. And when Deadpool and Wolverine came out, I feel so bad for my wife because almost it was a full theater. It was the it was the Thursday before it came out, and when Blade walked onto the screen, I was fist pumping in the air.
yeah,
I didn't give a fuck about anybody around me.
yeah,
And by the end of the film, she looks at me and goes, "You know what? The movie was great. Just seeing you fanboy over there was worth the price of admission."
yeah. Yeah,
Because
no, I was so excited when people behind me in like two rows back did the same thing. Like, because most of it I just sat there and I was just absorbing. I was like, okay, straight up, this is gonna be my first time seeing it, but I know I'm gonna go and see this a couple more times. But like, because there's so many things I'm missing because I sat a little too close, so I was seeing Easter eggs over here, and then I was like missing stuff over here. And I'm like, I'm gonna back up, and then I'm gonna watch
that
it again. I'm gonna go back 8 rows. I'm gonna watch it again. But
was
yeah, it was like there was so much good fan service in that movie, especially like the Fox logo,
the
the
Pirates of the
seeing,
Caribbean ship.
yeah, yeah, being
Oh,
able to
I
look at,
was
what was it like it wasn't a Secret Wars comic that was in the, on the ground. It was something
yeah
else.
yeah. It
Was
was
it
Secret
Secret
Wars.
Wars? Yeah,
It was Secret Wars, and then when they panned to him, it opened up. Yep,
yeah. I was like,
that
oh,
movie
get
was.
out of here. Yeah,
Y'all are just fooling with us now.
yeah. No, so good. It was yeah, everything about it was just like they seriously did their homework, um, and that's part of why I love like I love Logan because it was like a western, but it gave me my old man Logan. It also gave me Peril. I felt that characters are going to die in this movie, and that's the one thing that I believe in comics. Comic art has to imitate life, and one of the I dealt with a lot of issues by reading comics. I also dodged a lot of emotional issues by reading comics, so I didn't deal with reality at the time.
Yeah.
And uh, I feel like there's a time when people need to um, express uh, in their IP the things that kids are going to have to deal with. I mean, kids can handle having a character die in a comic book. They can handle
Yeah.
having a character die in cinematic comic book universe. I believe that we can. Look at the emotional reaction people had, during the snap, when we lost Iron Man, how impactful that was. People around me were crying in the theater. Like I was having an emotional reaction to a comic book movie because they did it so well. And the violin will always get me. Like, like you hit me with the sound, hit me with the music, hit me with the cinematic slow push in, hit me with that. You're gonna hit 1, 2, 3 punch. I'm sitting there, someone's cutting onions, like uh, it's just like that'll get me. That's why I go to the movies. I go for that. Make me feel something. I'll take my money. I want to feel something I didn't think that I would feel, whether it's scared, or whether it's the tingles on the back of the neck when I was watching what was oh my gosh, Paranormal Activity for the first time. I watched that opening night, and not great in a lot of ways, but there was a feeling that I got because of the way they dealt with tension in a very unique way, that hadn't been done that up until that point that I had seen. Was the tension mechanism of just like letting this camera sit there for a really long time. It was not what we're accustomed to. We're used to a cut. There are rules in editing, like you got to have
Yeah.
a cut so many times, so many seconds, but like they did something where they just let the camera sit there. And then anything that was happening, they made you have to be alert, like basically like a cat at night, like I got to see if anything moves, and if something moves, I'm going to pounce on it, with my imagination in this instance. And like I felt the tension when something dumb, like just a sheet moving, and I was just like the little hair on the back of my neck stood up. I'm like, that's not scary, but why am I having this physical
Yeah.
reaction to this? You know, not a scary movie in this normal sense, but yeah, but I did have an interesting reaction to it. So that's all I look for when I go to the movies. I go, for that. But
Same.
yeah, them aside, uh, yeah. So I just, if I wanted some reaction to my movie, it would be um, that people wondered what we meant by comic book accurate, because comic books don't have voices, obviously, but
Mm.
uh, the animated Joker, uh, we weren't going for him because we would have had to have the Widow's Peak. But I also really liked Arkham Asylum and Arkham Knight's Joker, the horror
Yes.
elements in Arkham Knights. That Joker so much reminds me of aspects. His suit is ratty. I'm like this,
Yeah.
having a nice clean purple suit never made sense to me. So one thing about Jack Nicholson's character is like in '89 was how well dressed he was. Like the level of insanity hadn't quite met what I thought would be the threshold of like a really insane clown prince of crime. Like he had the crime element, but he didn't have the insanity of what would be done to someone in death of the family. Or the New 52 with the stapling on. Like that's true horror in a DC universe. So if
Oh
someone
yeah.
tackles that, oh man, get out of here. Like that's going to be great. Like I just think we can look at death in our comic book movies. We can kill off a character and just be done. All four, is it four or five Robins that have existed, died, and then brought
Yep.
back. It's like
Oh yeah.
the Lazarus Pit is a useful mechanism for the money machine. Like, but
Oh
I really think that sometimes we need to consider, if you kill a guy, if you kill Bane, does Bane stay dead?
he's dead.
Right?
And a lot
And
of people don't want to do that now because look at Marvel being Marvel now, where they lost their money makers because they don't want to do it no more. And look at Robert Downey Jr. playing
oh yeah, come
what's his
back to
name?
play
Yeah,
Doom. Yeah,
like I think I think they've realized, hey, we backed ourselves into a corner now, and now we gotta basically fight out of the corner now because now to me they're underdogs because they had what was it Eternals, which was god awful. They
yeah,
had
yeah. That was rough
Captain
watch.
Marvel, which was god awful to watch because I could care less about that character. And then Marvel had their 3 to 4 downfall movies, and now they have to basically rewind and be like, all right, how can we get this franchise back on track now?
Right.
And now, with the state of DC being reset finally, which I I will talk bad about both. I'm very impartial. I like both of them very, very, very much. But my biggest gripe, I said to my friends, was why was the Snyder cut better than the actual movie itself? Because we actually got the big bad that's our Thanos
Mm,
character in DC finally, and he was in the movie for like 5 minutes,
right.
and that's just. I wish I could just throw my emails at people, but nobody's gonna listen to me. So, like,
Yeah. No, it's
I,
true.
I,
Yeah,
I
you
don't get
make
it.
a good point, man. The thing is too, I think we as comic book fans, I think we're probably the loudest, but we are, I feel, the most appreciative when someone nails the shit out of it. Like, but when we get disappointed, we're also the most vocal. And X-Men 3 was a heartbreaker because those are my comics as a kid. And it's like it's just
That
not
still
right.
wounds.
The first one was so cool because like first Blade comes out. I mean, arguably, I mean, I don't think we can even argue. I think it technically was the first superhero movie, if
Yeah,
I remember right. Blade was. I stand
yeah.
corrected if I'm wrong, but uh, and what a trend set, because then it's obviously Dolph Lundgren's Punisher, and
Oh,
then
don't.
I
Why you
know
gotta bring that up?
it wasn't good, but I mean like it was out there. Somebody did it. Yeah, that I could have done without the Dolph Lundgren butt shot. Like
We
they
might
know
as
that
well.
like 98% of the people that are going to see this are teenage boys, right? Like we don't like that is
You brought. Oh my God! You brought up Dolph Lundgren, right? But I just got a flashback to the first Captain America movie where he's riding the bike and flying.
yeah, yeah.
Oh my God! Why do you have to bring these up? God
because
damn you!
because I may not be able to remember like, things like, making sure all my bills get paid exactly on time because I live in like the most expensive town I could have possibly moved to. Um, but I can't forget certain traumatic comic book, whether it's good, like or horrific. And like I really dig the Punisher, always have. I had a chance
Same.
for a song to get his first appearance on comic, but it was really tore up. Like it had been just read and read and read, and so I mean it probably would have been like a 2.7, you know. But I knew that I could read it, like I could physically read it, and but he just wanted more money than I had at the time. Um, but yeah, it was, and of course I would, give me Incredible Hulk 180 and 181 all day long and twice on Sunday. Like I would have freaked out as a Wolverine, you nut. Um, but it, I was so excited when I could afford to get Wolverine 10, first appearance of Sabretooth in a Wolverine comic.
Oh,
And it's a beautiful episode. It's like they're out in the snow and the woods fighting and stuff like that. I started getting into the art of it, uh, and just started following comics based on who the pencilers were and who the
yeah.
inkers were and who the painters were. And it was almost for a period of time that I was more into the visual aspects of comics. That's why I liked what Aaron Camacho did with the jacket on David's costume, taking the spray paint to it and doing ha ha ha. He did that separately. John Helgren came over and did ha 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 on that plastic over on the left side of the room on his own. It's like the two texted each other and said like, "Hey, I got this idea," but like, and then it shows up, and all I told Aaron was like, anything you got that has purple, yellow, green, and some reds, give me that and I'll take whatever you got. If it's got some of that, white is fine too, but it's got to be dirty if it's white. And he
Yeah.
showed up, man, and he had the coolest assortment of stuff. And I'm like, and I said, oh, and I told him 80s, think late 80s punk rock, stuff like that. He comes in with the
Yeah.
jacket, with the studs. He's got a necklace made out of bullet shells and teeth. I'm like, teeth? Like, I don't even want to know. He's just like,
Is this going to be State Exhibit A by any chance?
I was
Because I don't
wondering
want no part of this.
Yeah, no, it was cool, man. Like I said, and I can't take credit for anything other than putting the right people in the same room for 12 hours. That's I can take credit for that. And I wrote a script. It was 6 pages long. He signed off on it. Seemed excited about it. I don't know because we never really spoke. But when I came in, he had memorized it all. Um, he had, the Killing Joke monologues and stuff that he's always had memorized and things. So he could have just done that. But once he saw the room, I feel like he definitely was just like, all right, these guys are here to cook. Like he came
Let's
upstairs
cook.
and yeah, and just 211, man. It was great. It was great. It like I have BTS and stuff, and we're trying to compile it, and so we've got a lot of footage that people took with their phones, and I'm trying to get it all in one place to make like a BTS video of that day because I knew we were going to kind of see something special and unique, and I wanted as much video of it as possible. So I just told everybody, go crazy. I'll just throw it all in the Dropbox folder so we can at least ourselves go and look and remember it that way. But then we went one step further and we were doing interviews. We have some stuff of David being interviewed downstairs before makeup and during and after makeup. And I think the girls took time lapse of him getting his makeup on. So I'm going to try and get that put together and drop that on the channel as well for people that are really big fans to check out. Yeah, I want everyone to enjoy it like we enjoyed it that day. It was a good time, and it was people I hadn't had a chance to work with, and then now they're I hope lifelong friends. I'd like to put together another one, but David's schedule is pretty wild, and so
I bet.
and I think he wants a legitimate shot at a casting call, which I hope that he gets. And like he said, if it's not him, please just cast somebody that's passionate about the character and the
Oh yeah.
comics. That's there's so many Batman universes too, and so many threads. You've got all these guys attacking it from different angles. I think if there's room for another, there's room for another, maybe a 4-part limited series, and maybe it's legitimately like Death of the Family,
Yeah.
or it's legitimately Death in the Family, or it's The Killing Joke, or it's one of these as a limited series, and you put a Joker in one, a Joker in the other, and a Joker in the other, and you know everyone gets to have an interpretation of it. I've seen so many good fan films,
Yeah.
the whole spectrum of like, man, that guy's got a good Joker voice, or that guy's got a good Joker face, or this guy, like the Bat in the Sun uh, Joker actor. I apologize for not being able to remember his name. He did a lot of things right with his look and his body movement and stuff that I really enjoyed. Like everybody's got a good fresh take on it, but I feel like the one that exemplified it the most was unbiased, but like I got to see it front row seat was David. I was like, that's you're doing what I heard before Mark Hamill. I heard that voice and that laugh that way in my head when I read those comics as a kid.
Yep.
So to me, it was almost a little traumatic to see what I saw in my head for all those years play out right in front of me. It was very surreal. And so I'll defend till the end of time that I think he's the most comic book accurate Joker we could possibly cast right now. Um,
1000%.
but whether or not someone wants to, hire a director and hire David and get all those components to tell the story like that, I don't know. I don't know what they want. I mean, they own it. They own those
Yeah.
rights. They own that IP, and it's their prerogative if they think it's a financially viable thing to do because they still have to get their money back. Um,
I think they
but
would tenfold.
I think they would. I think there's enough baked in fans of just Batman IP alone, and clearly Joker IP alone, because
Oh
the
yeah.
first Joker crushed. So it's like there are enough fans of that IP to where you get X dollars back no matter what. And I think
Yeah.
if you just kept the budget below that watermark, you know, give your actors back end money,
Yeah.
like one of the things I
I'm
think
pretty
is
sure they do
interesting.
anyway.
Yeah, yeah, if they're listed as an EP, they may have back end points. That's always a
So
traditional thing here in town. It's like if your actor, you see a famous person's name listed as an executive producer, that usually means they have back end opportunities, whether it's in, you know, merchandise or some sort of compensation. So maybe they did it for $100,000 up front, but they're getting $900,000 on the back end
on the
if
back
it
end.
makes money. Yeah,
Oh,
if
anything
it makes money.
Batman makes money.
I know that's I know.
Like
Did you
if
you
I
heard
just don't understand.
you heard
Like come on now.
what is it? The James Cameron blue people. I can't even remember the name.
Avatar.
Avatar. Thank you.
They're
So,
gonna make 6 of those, and they're just rolling in money. I don't want to hear that mess.
dude, Avatar. You heard about the first one and the story that uh, oh my gosh, man, that's how I know my phone's running out of battery. Apparently, my brain is too. Um, is Matt Damon was offered the lead role in that, and he
Yeah.
turned it down because he was making Jason Bourne.
Yep.
So I got to hear him tell this, but I think he'd already done this interview before. He was offered 10 points on the back end, but he had already committed to his friend to do Jason Bourne. And so I thought it was props to him for doing what he promised, which was to do
Oh
this other
yeah.
movie, which ended up working out. I'm sure he did just fine. But to know that you would have had 10% of $1 billion box office profit has to sting. you, that is generational wealth. That is a lottery ticket win. That has
It's
to
getting
sting.
it's getting hot in here. Whew.
You talk about having regret, like, I'm sure there has to be a day every now and then when he just sees one of those dolls or a magazine or that font, and he's just like, ah. I did right by my friend. I did right by my friend. I did right by my friend.
Everything's fine. Everything is fine.
Yeah. But,
Aaron,
no,
thank you very much for joining me today, brother. I appreciate you, man, so much.
absolutely, man. Justin, I had a great time, dude. Thanks for setting this
Dude,
up.
dude, thank you. Thank you for making this for us. Thank you for creating this all-star cast for us. And just thank you for doing this for us. That's all I can
Absolutely, man.
say.
Absolutely.
Dude,
It was our pleasure,
any
dude.
anytime you want to come on, just talk. I'm here, brother. You have an open door with us, man.
Yeah. There's a lot of other nerd stuff we can gripe about.
Anytime you're scheduled, bro, just hit me up. I'm gonna send you my number and be like, anytime you want to talk, man, I'm here, brother.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you,
Dude,
Justin.
thank you.
All right.
Anybody
Take
that
care.
hasn't seen this yet, Joker's Wild YouTube, Joker's Wild on Instagram, Aaron Wrights on Instagram. Give this man some love, man.
Oh,
Like,
man. Thank you.
just it.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate